how I'd go from nothing to 3 to 5K a month as a setter. Okay, what I'm going to do in this video is break down the exact model I used personally when I was appointment setting to take a firm doing 10, 20K months to 40K plus months. Okay, and what you can see up top right there is my first ever 5K USD month. It took me 7 months to get there, okay, which is roughly 3.7K pounds. And with what I'm going to be showing you in this video, not only has it worked for me, but I want to show you who else it's worked for as well. Yeah. So already here, for example, with Sean, he made 5K within 4 months following this exact system. 3.1K pounds there. There's a few other payments I'm not showing, but he did do it. Okay. Alex Rigby, 2.4K in comms in a week. Aaron has consistently been doing between 3 to 5K months. Richest guy in Albania. Okay. Smackus just does what he does best. Louis Sheehy, yeah, 3K weekend. Some people take years to even get that from a 9 to 5. He done that in a weekend. Okay. George, 16 years old, getting 1K on the phone, doing a madness for a startup cost. Lashar, 922 euros in a single day. Smackdullah just woke up to a 1500 piff because he got bored, or 1400 really. And then finally, Evan, he's made £800 in a day. Okay, so it hasn't just worked for me, but it's worked for them as well. So there's no reason that this won't work for you. So without further ado, okay, why do most setters stay broke? We need to tackle this first, okay? Now, with most setters, what they do is they box themselves in, yeah, as just message senders. Yeah, it's just being happy to be in the DMs, just sending messages, but it's more than that. Because these kinds of people get stuck at the 5% commission mark, right? They also don't look at stacking offers. A lot of people just have an offer and they're really happy with that and that's it, but they're also not happy with the income they're making, hence why it's a problem, yeah? A lot of people don't track what they're doing, which is quintessential. I'll get onto that in a bit, okay? And a lot of people primarily rely on just cold outbound alone. What we're looking at here, yeah, is how you create a ceiling above your head and you cap your income hard. Okay, this is exactly what we're looking at right here. Okay, and that's why most setters stay broke. So what we want to do is do the opposite of what most setters are doing to then get the income that we deserve. Okay, awesome. So ultimately, there are two main paths to getting to 5K a month. Times have changed. Okay. Prior, you could just send DMs, get calls booked, get commissions. That's fine. That used to work. We're in 2026. Times have changed. Okay? There are two main paths. With the first path, this is the path for people that already have a skill. Okay? Now, the skills I've got down here are editing, SMMA, copy, coaching. So if you've got a fit physique, you can go into PTing. If you're a barber, okay, you can start appointment setting for your barbering services. If you're a trader, you can help people with that. Okay, cool. You already have some, even if it's just window cleaning, you've got some kind of skill. Okay, some kind of service-based skill, right? Because that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. Okay, those people who already have skills, okay, we can get retainers. We can start setting for ourselves. We can play the game a little bit differently to the rest of the setters on the market who are really upset with their very small commission checks, okay? And what we can do is we can grow quickly, not just to 5, but to 10K, because you've already got a pre-existing skill. And this whole game is about stacking skills. The more skills you can stack, the better off you're going to be, okay? Now, I'm well aware of the fact that a lot of people watching this don't have multiple skills. So really all we have is appointment setting, okay? So before I get into path B, that's path A. If you've already got a skill, set for it, right? But for path B, okay, these are for people that don't have a skill yet, and now we're having to leverage appointment setting as that main skill, right? We don't want to become another appointment setter. We don't want to become another message sender, but what we want to do is become a revenue partner setter. a model that nobody's talking about in the space because people are too scared that people are going to have too many bright ideas and start getting hayward. But I don't care. I've done all this. I don't mind spilling the beans. I'm happy to break the market. Message sending does not work anymore. Okay, we need to become revenue partners. And how do we become a revenue partner? A revenue partner setter. Okay, we track our metrics. We look at what's happening. We look for bottlenecks. Okay, we look at how we can get more inbounds in. Like, are you even tracking? This is what the appointment says. Are we even tracking the amount of inbounds we're getting a day? If we're not, why? If you are, good. Okay, but if you're not, that's concerning. And ultimately what we need to do here, okay, is at least track the data for the DM sending. Okay, this includes the reply rate. This includes the reply to conversation rate. This includes the conversation to call rate. If you can't track the conversations, okay, track the reply to call rate, the call to show rate, the show to close rate, things of that nature. We need to be looking at all of this across the board, okay, because ultimately we get paid in proportion to the amount, we get paid in proportion to the size of the problem we're solving. Message sending is one thing, but to track the bottlenecks and track the reply rates and make sure everything is running smoothly, you're solving a larger problem that's worth a lot more than 5%, okay? And we become a lot more valuable to the firm. A firm will never get rid of their top salesperson, and the top salesperson is the person who goes out of their way to track the data they have not been asked to track, to get the money in that the business owner is so desperately needing, and of course the setter as well, because we're all in this game for a reason. Yeah, of course we are. Okay, so they're the two main paths we can follow, especially in 2026. Path A, you've got a skill. Path B, we double down on the setting, okay, and we just go head first into the data tracking. We land on our feet. We jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down, okay? Great. Now, in terms of stacking offers, and I really want to break this down to you, because when you're a revenue partner setter, we're able to get 1.5 to 2.5K a month off the single client, okay? This isn't a hobble squash, okay? This is real life. Now, with one client, we're looking at 1.5 to 2.5, okay? Uncommon, but it is possible. You can make 5K a month pounds from a single client, okay? But more often than not, we're gonna have to stack what we're doing, okay? 2 to 3 clients is when we're then able to predictably get past 5K a month, and then 4 to 5 clients onwards, that's when you've got a proper business. When you've got one offer, you're effectively a freelancer. 2 to 3 clients, okay, cool, we're getting somewhere. Between 3 and 5, okay. 5 onwards, you've got yourself a proper business. And I know a lot of people who are getting into appointment setting are entrepreneurial and they do want to start their own business. And you can see here how we are able to do that. Not by being the average message sender, but by being a revenue partner setter. Very distinct differences between the two. Okay, and what I want to do here is just make it very clear that what we need to do is we need to position ourselves in the right way. The frame in which we enter the agreement, okay, will shape it all. You might have heard the saying before, start as you mean to go on. Okay, so what we don't say right at the very start is I book calls. Sound. Is that it? No wonder you're stuck on 5%. I'm not surprised, okay? Don't say that, right? What we want to say is, look, I will take care of the call bookings, okay? Without a shadow of a doubt, that's all on me. But what I'd also then like to go ahead and do is look at other areas of the funnel from time to time, okay? I look for bottlenecks. I keep performance high. Like, they're looking for a DM setter. They're looking for a message sender. Cool. We don't want to just be a message sender. Okay, cool, it's in their best interests, but what's in our best interests? That's what we have to think about, okay? So we frame it to the client as, look, I will take care of the setting for you. No problem. I will book you meetings. Sound. But what I'm also going to do is check the data. I'm going to check the content. I'm gonna look at the closing data. I'm gonna look at the lead quality. Okay. I'm gonna do daily sweeps in the DMs. All because I want the setting to be immaculate. With a client like this, yeah, they're thinking to themselves, I just want a message sender sound. But what we want to do again is we want to plan a hijack, and I'll get onto that in a second. But everything we do has to revolve around the setting being immaculate. There's no two ways about it. Okay? Awesome. Great. Now, in terms of the hijack, what we want to do is break out the 5% ASAP. Okay? Being in 5% will cap your income. Okay? It just will. There's a lot of people looking negatively at this space for a reason. It's because people get comfortable at 5%. I never got comfortable at 5%. I was always fighting for more. Because what I did was I showed results. Yeah? I built trust. I negotiated. I practiced what I preach. Okay? I would never ask somebody to do something that I would not do. Okay? But I've done this. And once we're then able to collect results, show results, and of course results in this case is revenue and cash collected. Of course, in your case, it's calls booked and calls taken. But because we're revenue partner setters, we're taking accountability for the whole thing. Yeah? Excellent. So, what we want to do is say something along the lines of this, yeah? I love working with you, and I'm confident I can keep improving performance. Would you be open to 7.5 to 10% commissions or adding bonuses to hitting targets? Like I mentioned earlier, a firm will never get rid of their top salesperson. That will never happen. In what way would it make sense to get rid of the person who's generating you the most amount of income? You're literally shooting yourself in the foot. You might as well cock it back now. You might as well. Okay? And again, we don't need to always go for the high commission, but we can even start with bonuses. We start to hijack the offer. And what I mean by a hijack is we just start to take more and more from the offer because we're adding more and more value. Life is a value exchange. The more value that you're able to provide somebody, the more they're going to want to give back to you. So when you just take yourself out the message sending, okay, which is what appointment setting is dressed up nowadays, yeah, we take ourselves out of that and we then take accountability and ownership for the remainder of the funnel. There is no way in God's green earth a client would want to get rid of you. Okay? So then you can just say to him, quick fire, you know what, yeah, mate, I proper enjoy working for you. I think I can get you a lot more results. I just need a bit of an incentive. If I book you 10 calls in a week, can I get a £150 bonus? I'm not going to say no to that. They want qualified calls anyway. And even if they do get a little lippy with that, there is nothing stopping you from being, okay, cool, so you're getting a little lippy with that. What's the reason behind it? Just close them, objection handle. What, 15 qualified meetings a week? Yes, sound. At 3 a day, excellent. You have your target now, do it, you've got the incentive. But that's not the end all and be all, of course not. Okay, but it's just an example here of how we can get more. We do not want to have a ceiling on our income. You're never going to get an SVJ that way. Okay, awesome, great. Now, what I want to do is show you some maths here, okay? So what we have ultimately is our replies. If we're not tracking our, I'll say that again. If we're not tracking our reply rate, damn. That is peak, right? We need to be tracking our reply rate. And then our reply rates are calls, okay? Calls to closes, then closes to commission, okay? We need to be taking a look at the funnel, okay? Huge, because ultimately here, as an example, to get 5K in commissions, we need to get 50K. 50K on 10% is 5K for you. You can do it for a little less, add a base pay, add a bonus structure, but as a clear cut and dry way of actually getting the maths to work for you, we now know, okay, cool, 50K, 10% commission, 5K for me, great. Or if I've got 2 clients, 25K each, 2.5 each, 10% commission because I've hijacked the offer, 5K for you. And then because you got bored and got 15 qualified meetings in a week, you then get the £150 bonus on top. So you've done £5,150 in a month, which is good. That's over 60 grand a year. People fight tooth and nail for that. Some people work their whole lives and have children and get married and never even touch near to that. But we can do that. Okay. We know what to do, right? And when I'm just taking a look here, daily actions. So as a revenue partner setter, okay, we need to be looking at our DMs. We need to be sweeping our DMs. We need to be going through them, catching people who need to be followed up with. We need to be catching people that never booked in. We need to be catching people that did book in a long time ago, but they're now a long-term follow-up and their situations might have changed. Okay. We need to be checking the reply quality. What I mean by reply quality is simply, okay, we have 100 messages sent, got 30 replies. From those 30 replies, 20 are qualified, 10 are not. We now know that our reply rate quality is bad. Okay, this is the sort of way we need to be tracking things, because ultimately the more unqualified people we're speaking to, the less commissions we're going to get. Just the way it is. So from the reply rate level, we need to be looking at, okay, who is replying back to us? Because if we message 100 people, 90 are qualified, 10 are unqualified, but our opening message then gets 10 unqualified people to reply and 10 qualified people to reply, we now know that our messaging is resonating more with the unqualified kind than the qualified kind. So we need to now make a change. Okay? Tracking our conversation points, tracking how people react and behave and respond to certain messages that we send. Okay? We need to be chatting to our offer owner. We need to become best friends with our offer owner. If you're not speaking to your offer owner daily, something is going wrong. I'm sorry to say it, but something is going wrong. Okay? And if your offer owner is not even speaking to you, then I'm sorry, that's a bit of a red flag. Because what that might mean is that either they don't respect you or they haven't got enough time for you. And if they haven't got enough time for you, mad. Yeah? You are, as a setter, the most important person in the business. And do not let anybody tell you otherwise. Okay? We need to constantly be bringing in new ideas. We're not message senders. We're revenue partner setters. We need to bring ideas to the table that ultimately impact the amount of revenue that we're going to be bringing in. Because at the end of the day, that will dictate what your commissions check looks like at the end of the month, right? We need to be reviewing our drops. We need to be reviewing our objections. Not even just at the setting level, but at the closing level. What objections are commonly coming up? What kind of people are getting onto the calls? Are we tracking the data for the people that are on these calls? Are we tracking, okay, so Mr. Offer Owner, you've had 10 partner objections come through. Great. Okay, then you had 20 objections come through because of a lack of knowledge around X, Y, Z. So we now know we need to create some content around the value and around the systems we are talking about so that when people jump onto the calls, they're more educated. Because 2/3 of all objections in that scenario boil down to the education aspect. They don't know enough about the offer. They don't know enough about the model. We don't know enough about this, that, or the other. We need to be reviewing this on behalf of our clients to become their best friend, to find it a lot easier to hijack the offer, right? And we need to be targeting anywhere we can. Like anything that needs attention, give it attention, okay? And if you don't like the sound of that, you can stay broke. Okay, cool. Now, like I mentioned earlier, what we need to do is take accountability, take ownership. The only two ways to get rich in this world is either by being in sales or running your own firm. There's no two ways about it. And when we are in the sales team, we have to be treating the business like it's our business, because otherwise we're not going to care that much about getting the sales. Sales is a cruel sport. Setting is a cruel sport. Closing is a cruel sport. The whole thing is a cruel mistress, okay? But that should not stop us from taking full accountability and full ownership of what we are doing and for the whole entire business. We need to be treating the business like it's our business, because otherwise you're not going to have the conviction. You're not going to have the belief. You're not going to have the drive. You might have motivation, but motivation is fleeting. Glory is forever. And we need to keep that in mind. Okay? So we need to be thinking to ourselves, okay, the reply rate is 10%. Why is it 10%? What am I saying to these people? Was the reply rate higher before? Is the reply rate higher on competitors' accounts, on other accounts? Speak to other setters, start networking, start mincing about, start chatting to these people, see what's going on. Yeah? Now, is it a marketing issue? Now, I understand the people that are in either path A or path B. We might not understand marketing, but what we can understand is that, okay, cool, we are attracting the wrong kinds of leads. We're attracting the wrong kinds of people. So what we need to do is change our messaging so we're targeting the people that we want to be targeting. If you're working for a fitness coach and they're putting up a lot of content around PCOS and things of that nature, but they're talking about targeting men who live in Dubai and Bangkok and entrepreneurs living... No, it's not going to work. Fair enough for female entrepreneurs, but if they're targeting male entrepreneurs, I don't need to state the obvious. Okay? And why aren't replies turning into calls? So we track our reply rate, but then our reply to call rate, why is that low? Are people switching off? Are people not interested? Does the account look ugly? Has the guy got a bad name for himself? Have you got a bad name for yourself? Because if you've taken path A, you need to think to yourself, okay, have I just got dead setting? Like, fair enough, cool, we've got to send the messages, but are you sending dead messages? We have to be thinking about these things. Okay? Show rates. Why are people not showing? Are you booking people in within 3 days or not? Are you booking in people manually? Are you booking them in via calendar? How are you booking the calls in? And then beyond that, it's like, okay, cool, we look at the people who've booked in manually and we look at the people who've booked in via the calendar, and then we look at the show rates of that. What do we need to double down on? If it don't make money, it don't make sense. We need to see where the money is coming from. Okay? Are the leads warm enough? Is there enough content? Does your clients have YouTube videos? If you've gone through path A, have you got YouTube videos? Have you got content? Do people have enough resources to digest of your face in it that allows them to know, like, and trust you enough? Because ultimately, we need to be having in the ideal world, of course, we need to have the prospect watch at least 4 to 6 hours of content for them to know, like, and trust you enough. Okay, that is huge. So the more content somebody watches, the warmer they are going to be to you. Yeah? And finally, what's breaking? Again, like I said, you need to track your numbers religiously, especially if you're on path B, which is where a majority of you will be going. But you need to see what's breaking. You can't just go, oh, it's broken, I'm going to leave now. Because yeah, for sure, if you're just a message sender, then the offer you're on matters a lot. But if you're a revenue partner setter, then you have full accountability and full authority and full ownership to do what is required. Or at least pitch the idea to the client to do what is required. Because again, the way you're framing it is that, look, I'm going to be handling the setting for you. I'm going to be handling the message sending. But what I'm going to do is take care of other parts of the funnel to make sure that when it comes to the setting, it can be done immaculately, spotlessly. Okay? And like I said, when you're working in sales, you need to treat the business as if it's your own business. Okay? And the easiest mind trick you can apply on yourself is go, okay, cool. I'm being paid a 10K retainer. I'm being given £10,000 a month by the client. Damn. Now you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've got 10K retainer. What would I do? Whatever you've listed off in your head as to what you would do if you were getting paid £10,000 a month as a flat basic from your client, do that. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, once you stay congruent and you continue doing the actions of what you would be doing if you were making 10K a month, eventually you will get to 10K a month. It's a bit like if you go to the gym and just copy a... Got a call come through. Excellent. So, lost my train of thought there completely, but the point still stands. Okay, the point still stands. Right, we need to be moving like that person who's getting paid 10k a month. As I was saying, like you're in the gym, for example, okay, and you're acting as if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you're doing exactly what Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing. Eventually, you'll become very similar to Arnold Schwarzenegger. So if we take that example and then put it into what we're talking about right now, okay, if you behave like that person getting paid 10k a month and just go through the pain, go through the hardships, go through the suffering, eventually we'll then reap the rewards. Yeah? Excellent. And look, setting is not the end goal. 5k a month is not the end goal. I know for a stern fact, everyone watching this, okay, cool, 5k sounds nice, but that's not where we want to end up at the end of all of this. We want to get to the point where we're making 10, 15, 20, 100 million per month. Okay, and to get to that point, we need to act like the person who is already at that point, acting as a revenue partner setter. Okay, so we need to understand our lead quality. We need to understand how to actually build an offer. Is the offer attractive? Like if you go to your client and they're selling fitness coaching for 3k and you say to them, you're right, mate, would you buy your coaching off you for 3k? If they hesitate for a single moment, something's wrong. You need to be able to go to someone and go, look, yeah, would you pay for your service at the price point you've got it at? If you do not hear an immediate yes with full conviction, something's gone wrong. So then again, as a revenue partner setter, it's your responsibility to bring ideas to the table and breathe life into them. Because we want to get out of that 5% prison as quickly as possible. We want to get to a nice 2k retainer, a nice 3k retainer, a nice 15% commission, heck, 30%. Start to hijack the offer, take little bits here and there, get a bonus structure, get a mini me. Okay, act like C-suite. Act as if you're the COO, the CSO, the Chief Operations Officer, the Chief Sales Officer. We need to act like that. Yeah? When you get to that point, you're irreplaceable. You will never get rid of your top salesperson ever. Ever. And even if you have been in sales for a while, there is also nothing stopping you from figuring out the skill of closing so that you can then go ahead and take the calls on behalf of the client. They have no problem with that. Again, you want to become irreplaceable. That's the angle we want to be going at with this. Okay. Now, of course, if we don't evolve and we keep to the same systems, the client will outgrow the systems you've got. But that's exactly why we need to keep evolving. And we need to keep adding more and more onto the service to constantly stay relevant. It's all well and good getting paid here and there, but especially in business, we really want to focus on the lifetime value that we get from a customer or a client. And what I mean by lifetime value is the amount of cash / revenue that we're able to get from a client in the lifetime, if that makes sense. Yeah, we want to get the most amount of money from each client as possible. It's all well and good collecting 5k for 1 month and that's it, walking off. There's another thing collecting 5k every few months. Adds up, okay? Because the easiest people to sell are the people you've already sold. The easiest money to get is from people who've already given you money. There's a reason murderers get the longest sentence in jail, not because it's the most heinous crime, which I think is up for debate, of course, and not here to talk about that, but murderers get the longest sentence in jail because they have the ability to do it again. Okay? And we do not want people with that ability to be out on the streets with our sons, our daughters, our parents, things of that nature. Okay? So, sweet, cool. We need to become irreplaceable. Yeah. Excellent. Sound. Now, it took me 9 months. It took me from February 2024 to December 2024. We're now in 2026. Bear that in mind, okay? But It took me 9 months to do what I should have done in 4. And with the amount of setters and closers that I have spoken to, and I've been able to get to 5K a month within 4 months, it's so doable. But we need to position ourselves differently. We're in a new era of appointment setting. We cannot do what we used to do. Just like I said, how a client will outgrow and out-evolve your systems, setting is now evolving. So if we continue the way we've been doing things before, especially in the setting space, then you're going to get wiped out. I hate to say it, but AI is on the way. It just is. Okay? So we need to position ourselves as people that are more than just message senders. Yeah? We need to stack deals. We need to start hijacking the offer. Okay? Another hijack. Bonuses. Negotiate up commission-wise. Base pay. Pay per appointment. Have them fly you out to somewhere. Okay? As long as you're not spending your own bread, you're sound. Okay? Bottlenecks, blockers, data, track it. Because again, you want the setting to be immaculate. Right? And again, the volume. Sales is 3 things. And my mentor told me this. But it's activity, it's performance, and it's mindset. Yeah? Activity dictates that the more activity you do, the better results you're going to get. You'd rather me, okay, on a football pitch, running around like a headless chicken, than Cristiano Ronaldo religiously standing there on the halfway line. At least I'll move defenders. He'll just stand there and look pretty. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Yeah? Performance. Now you've got me running around like a headless chicken. My shots are way off target. We now work by looking at the data to figure out how to get more shots on target. Yeah? And finally, mindset. If you go into this thinking it's just a side hustle, you're going to find it tough. We all know that to get the results we want in life, we need to be willing to burn the boats. There's a reason that saying is so popular. Hernan Cortez, correct me if I'm wrong, but him and the Spanish Armada went down to Mexico, and the troops were literally talking about going back to Spain to go see their families and stuff, jeopardizing the mission of taking over Mexico. I believe his name was Hernan Cortez, but that geezer, he burnt the boats. There was like several hundred of them, maybe even 200, in Mexico, surrounded by Aztecs, but they still took over Mexico and took Mexico for the Spanish back home in Europe. Because at that point they had no other option but to make it work. Okay. But either way, activity, performance, mindset. Yeah. We become revenue partners. We gain momentum, we gain cash, and we then use the momentum and cash we get to make even more cash and get even more momentum. Okay, we want to create little flywheels. Okay, that's the most important thing. Yeah? Excellent. Now, in terms of execution, I've given you the roadmap. I've given you the plan. I've given you the heads up. You know what to do. But if you would like some help to get the results faster, then it might make sense for us to have a conversation and see if the shoe fits. Okay? I will not be talking to anyone who doesn't think like has the minerals. But if I think you've actually got what it takes to not just get to 5K, but beyond that, if you've got a good head on your shoulders and you've already got a skill, or maybe you're just willing to double down, then look, message me on Instagram and we can have a conversation. To get to 5K in 4 months, okay, it's not rocket science, okay? This is business. And business can be made mechanical. So if you'd like some help, get into 5K as quickly as possible, get all the shortcuts, skip all the messy steps and stop brute forcing things. Okay, and you're actually ready to take that next step and bet on yourself. Drop me a message. We'll have a conversation. Okay? So, thank you for watching. You know my name already. And I'll see you on the flip side. Thank you.